bull or bear, using my the first coin I ever used. Hits the computer and goes up a bull, and I kind of think that's what we're going to see today. Good morning, and hey, what's up, folks? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals. Big smile on my face. I forgot how much I miss these morning videos and how much I miss the happy, smiling faces of the Bermuda chubs and the grumpy old look of the look downs that we have here. But anyways, beautiful day out there. Look at the water clarity. Saw a big, giant, happy-looking puffer fish just gently float by here just a few moments ago as well. Also some tarpon, and it's good time for clear waters, and I'm not sure if that's good for fishing, but, oh, hang on a second, I lost that live button. There we go. Okay. Well, anyway, wonderful camera for the morning times. Great with a cup of coffee if you want to relax. Works well on the big screen, too. Put it up on the big screen in my store downstairs for people to watch, and people seem mesmerized by it. So let's see. And it's also on a high def to some degree. Anyways, here, we're not, I always say this, we're not here to talk about fishes, but we do anyways. This fishing, our shows are gold, silver, and fishing. I don't know if we could combine those. Like, why not? Why not? This is YouTube, right? All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day, which is, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you're going to have a strong superstructure. I'm not sure who Gordon B. Hinckley is. I usually look before I post up these quotes, but sounds very innocuous quote. And it's true. You know, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. Anybody that's built sandcastles, even as a small kids, knows that you have to start with a big, strong foundation in order to hold up for a few minutes from the waves that are coming in, crashing on top of it. So you got to have a strong foundation. Again, that's something we learn even as children. But apparently, the Federal Reserve and our politicians across the world haven't learned this, and our banking system hasn't learned this, because the great building that we once had here, our republic here, the United States, the Constitution, and our economic system prior to the Fed coming in, was a good, strong foundation. Was it perfect? No, there's no such thing as a perfect foundation, but strong. But what we got with the Fed and what we've gotten with the recent, well, basically, the loss of the Constitution is what we're looking at here somewhat. You've got attacks against the First Amendment, attacks against the Second Amendment. You've got attacks against the other amendments. So the foundation has been weakened so dramatically by these morons in Washington, D.C., both flavors, red and blue, both presidents, you know, all the presidents, as far as I'm concerned, back to can't even think of the last good president I can think of. Might have been, well, the most well-intentioned might have been Kennedy, but you know, they all have their issues. But it's been a downhill slide ever since, and both in the red and blue party. Some may argue that Ronnie Reagan was a good solution. Perhaps he was on a conservative side, but you know, he was just another tag. Well, anyways. All right, let me move along here. We don't have a strong foundation. We have a weak foundation, folks. And the problem in 2008, now let's talk about economics, what this has to do with the price of gold and silver. The problem with 2008, the 2008 collapse, is that they never fixed anything. You know, one of my common comparisons was that in 2008, the patient, which would be, I'm gonna I'm going to make an equivalency to the human, you know, a person. Imagine 2008. It's a giant gaping wound is what happened to the patient here. Sorry, I got a little confused on the way to explain this, but imagine that you got a big gaping wound in the middle of your body, all right? And they take you to the hospital. You're on your deathbed, and that's what the economy was like in 2008, according to these, you know, according to the bankers and the politicians. And of course, you know, you've instantly got to pump some life blood in there. You got to pump some blood in there, which means pumping some money into the system. You got to give the patient some blood. They've lost a lot of blood from this massive gaping wound. So you've got to inject some money into that system. Now, where they screwed up in 2008 is they gave it to the wrong people. They bailed out a bunch of companies. They gave it to they didn't distribute it properly. They changed that because they knew that they would be all tarred and feathered if they didn't. They ended up giving it to the people, this last bailout. You know, the bailout that they did when they sent us all checks, you know, the PPP or PP, whatever the heck it was. I forget, but this time they bailed out people. And the reason they bailed out the people, because they knew if they bailed out banks again like they did in 2008, it would have been, pitchforks and torches and tar and feathering of the politicians. So they gave a lot of it to the people just to keep them quiet. But, again, that's what you got to do. You got to inject money in somewhere when the patient's bleeding. You got to put blood in the patient somehow. And that's all well and fine, okay? What's not well and fine is what led up to the circumstances and why we got there, but that's a whole different story. But more or less, if you think about it, they loaded up the patient in 2008 with a lot of plasma, a lot of blood, got the patient somewhat stabilized, I guess. Accordingly, they thought they had fixed it. But the problem is, and the problem is still today with this patient, is that there's still this huge gaping wound. They've never closed this wound. They've never fixed the patient. They've never fixed the problem. The reason we got this way, the reason that the Fed's in such a pickle and the dollar's just tanking even worse. There's a reason. They've never studied that. All they did is just inject more blood into the patient. When I saying blood, more money. It never fixed anything. The patient's still bleeding out. All that new money all that new blood that they put in it. And again, what does this have to do with a foundation? Well, the foundation just got a hell of a lot weaker because they never fixed the problem in 2008. They just kept injecting more blood into the patient, or should I say injecting more money into the system, never really fixing the core problems we had. And again, we can talk about what those problems are, but we all know, and that's a whole different story again. Take a look at markets today, $1,991. We're touching on that psychological mark of $2,000 here. And trust me, it is a psychological mark in many ways. It's also there's a GATA article that talks about, and GATA.org has always talked about how the governments and central banks are instrumental in keeping the price of gold down. And they do it through entities, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the $2,000 mark, if you're the Fed and your central banks all over, and you're looking at $2,000 versus $2,000 an ounce gold, obviously things aren't doing too well in the economy. It doesn't look good for the Federal Reserve that gold's at this price or nearing that 2,000 mark. And I do believe they'll do everything they can to kind of stomp it below that 2,000 mark. But again, I think it's just way too late. I think, are we at that point right now? Are we at that where we cross the line in the sand and there's no going back? I think we are. We've already approached that $2,000 mark multiple times, and we seem to be strongly doing it more so recently. I mean, take a look at, again, today, in the last couple weeks now, it keeps touching on that $2,000 area. It's touched it, gone past it a few times in the last year. So you know what I like about this current market we got right here? Let me do a quick refresh, see if anything's changed here. You know what I like about this current market we're seeing right now? And it reminds me of when we started to see the gold market chug up from that $1,000 to $2,000 level back in 08 through 12 and above 2000, is that the movements are getting kind of a little bit, the gold is going up like $10, dropping back 5 or 6, going up another $10, dropping back 5 or 6, that kind of deal. Slow increments, not these big, heavy overnight things. I'm not sure big, heavy overnight moves are really healthy. They look good, they feel nice, and again, if we start seeing heavy moves on a daily basis in gold, then something's really severely broken. Let's talk about silver here. She's broken that $24 mark, but that's not exciting if you really think about it. Gold's approaching breaking its all-time high for the 4th time, and silver's, still hasn't broken its second all-time high back in 2012 when it hit $50 an ounce, back when the crooks at JP hammered the price of silver down from $50 an ounce almost to 13 or 12 or something. But again, that's a whole different story, and we've talked about that many times as well. But silver just chugging past this 20. I like the way these markets are moving. Platinum's still quite a bit unloved. But as I told you, silver guys, and probably it's true for platinum, where gold goes, silver and platinum will follow. However, I'm starting to realize that palladium, I think palladium is not going to do so well, more of an industrial metal than an investment metal. I don't think gold is going to drag the price of palladium up. In fact, I can kind of see palladium getting around to the price of platinum, perhaps, and or platinum coming up to the price of palladium, and gold being much higher than it is right now. Anyways, that's just all speculation on my point. What do I want to talk about right now? I want to keep this one short today too. Yesterday I was talking about the demise of the dollar, more or less, and it's, listen. The dollar is like the Titanic, the U.S. dollar, since the Fed took over in 1913. Since it's really become kind of a fiat currency. The dollar is like a Fed, like the Titanic. It's been going down since 1913. It's had a few moments where it's kind of buoyed up a little bit, but overall, the Titanic's going down. We all know it. We all know the dollar's going down. And what does that exactly mean? It's just you're going to have to use, it's going to take more and more dollars to buy less and less goods. And I believe the math is correct that the dollar has, since inception in 1930, not inception, but since the Fed took over in 1913, has lost 96% of its buying power. It's even on a bigger accelerated slide right now. The dollar is like the Titanic since the Fed took over, and it's not backed by gold or silver or anything like that. It's just destined to fail, like all fiat currencies. And the object of the Fed is to keep the dollar stabilized and keep it above the waterline for as long as possible before it does sink. However, the weaponization of the U.S. dollar by government, which the Fed maybe the Fed does have some control over. Maybe this is all purposely done, but the government has weaponized the U.S. dollar. Certainly has made it much tougher for the Federal Reserve to stabilize the dollar. And here's a good example of that. China and Brazil strike a deal to ditch the U.S. dollar. That's just less dollars that'll be used worldwide. And what happens to these dollars that don't get used? Well, guess what, folks? They come flooding back to this country, where, again, it just cheapens the money supply. It takes more dollars to buy less goods. Not a good deal, folks. And like I said, they never fixed anything in 2008. All they did is just pump more blood into it. Look, here's Jamie Dimon, JPMorgan's head henchman right here, who was responsible for crushing gold and silver markets back in 2012, and has such a huge, and it got caught. Remember, these guys right here got fined almost $1 billion for spoofing gold and silver markets. And spoofing was a small thing. The regulators and the Justice Department never even got into the real crime, which is just blatant manipulation in the Crimex markets and how they built up this huge physical position they have. Folks, what JP got fined almost $1 billion for spoofing. That's it. What they've really done by manipulating the price of gold and silver all these years is a far greater crime than spoofing. All right. But I don't think the government wanted to go there because they are the largest bank, too big to fail, too big to jail, all that kind of stuff right there. So Jamie Dimon says the crisis is not over yet. Repercussions for years to come. And look at the smile on it. I know that's just a stock photograph, but that's probably what he would look like if he was saying that. Repercussions. You know why he has a slight smile on his face? Because he knows his henchmen, and his crooked bank that's tied in with corporate cronyism with the U.S. government, the Treasury Department. Trust me, folks, the Treasury Department and JP work together. There is collusion going on there somehow, and I really believe this, especially in the gold markets. Here's a good article by GATA.org. JPMorgan Chase domination of monetary metals derivatives isn't so puzzling. I'm going to read this to you real quick. Today at Wall Street on Parade, Pam and Russ Martins, who I like, note that JPMorgan Chase bank holds 53% of all monetary metal derivative contracts in the U.S. banking system. Folks, that's 53%. Huge number for a single bank to own. And if you don't think it's done for pure manipulative reasons, then I don't know, you're living in a fantasy world. JPMorgan manipulates gold and silver markets. They still do today, even after they got caught for the minor crime of spoofing. Yeah, I say minor because the crime they have been doing is much bigger, but they'll never be criminally charged for it. So the Martinez writes, it is hard to understate the regulatory failure of allowing JPMorgan Chase to continue to have this outsized presence in the physical markets, metals derivatives market. And GATA.org wants to remind us, well, yes and no, for it's not hard to understand the regulatory failure. It is almost certainly, now this is GATA talking, not Pam and Russ Martins. It is almost certainly a matter of law, a matter of JPMorgan Chase's operating as the agent. Now, GATA's been talking about this for a while. I do believe JPMorgan does act for agent for the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. government secretively. I do believe that, I really do. And there's lots of reasons to believe that. Maybe we'll get into that again one day. We've talked about it before. So anyway, to go on here, as the agent of the U.S. government and surreptitiously controlling gold and silver prices to protect the value of the U.S. dollar and U.S. government bonds. I agree with that 100%. A rising gold price, a gold price that's jumping up dramatically, does not help the U.S. dollar. They know that. They've always known that. In fact, Greenspan mentioned that gold was kind of like the canary in a coal mine for the U.S. dollar. And so I do believe they manipulate the price of gold. The U.S. government does through, the Fed does through JP. But here, let's move along here. And God has done a lot of research on this. If you want to know more about this, just go up here and read this, the basics right here. They talk about that stuff. The rigging is completely legal since the U.S. government is authorized by the Gold Reserve Act of 1934 and related legislation to intervene in and manipulate any market in the world. This is true. The Martinez have long done tremendous investigative reporting about corruption and fairness of the financial system. Basically what God is saying is the Martins have forgotten or aren't aware that the price of gold is manipulated by the U.S. government. Really good article, guys. Highly recommend you read this here. Wow, we could read the rest of this, but again, you can either stop, pause, and read the rest of this right here, or just go to the website. It's GATA.org, which I recommend should be on your bookmark bar anyway. Read JPMorgan Chase Domination of the Monetary Metals Derivatives Isn't So Puzzling by GATA.org. Hey, a lot of you folks don't know, but I'm also on LinkedIn as Brian Kuzmar. That's the owner of Commercial Rare Coins, Precious Metals, Antiques and Jewelry, blah, blah, blah. But I saw something interesting on here. A gentleman that is a web developer and promoter of cryptos put out here, warning, faking a gold bar filled with tungsten, which has the same density, meaning that this bar weighs correct. That's one of many, excuse me one second, that's one of many reasons no one accepts gold as payment, and Bitcoin fixes this. All right, that's kind of clickbait for sure. You know, that's definitely like troll bait for sure. I looked at it, I made my comment down here, and where is my comment? Right there, actually. I was very polite. I said it's rare to see, and take a look at that, folks. That's actually a tungsten-filled bar. I think that there's a few of these out there that have been discovered, and everybody shares the same pictures. I haven't seen too many myself, but again, you can read what I said up here. It's rare to see fakes of this quality as far as plating. Specific gravity machine, a specific gravity test would work. Of course, we have one of those here. It is too thick for the XRF machine. Not many people realize this, but that XRF machine we have, I'm not even going to try to pronounce what XRF stands for, but it's not really X-ray, all right? It's not looking into the metal, into that section right there. What the XRF does, it bounces off within 10 microns of the surface. That's why that heavy plating would fool a $20,000 XRF machine. It would pass through there because the plating's thick enough to probably get through it. But I think the cheaper Sigma machines may pick it up because they use sound or something like that, magnetism, or I don't know what they use. But my whole point was here, buy from professionals and this shouldn't happen. And if in the long shot it did, you would have recourse. And of course I had to make my Bitcoin statement, which says Bitcoin lacks historical record, requires internet and electricity. Most of all, it is not hard, tangible money with a track record. However, I do see potential in its technology. Well, anyway, folks, now that you know I'm LinkedIn, I do make some comments out there. It's kind of new for me, like Twitter. I'm kind of doing some more things out there. Here, where's my home base right there? You can find me here. Again, at Brian Kuzmar on LinkedIn, if you happen to be a LinkedIn member or a LinkedIn person. And I also post my videos up here as well. Here, I'll show you that. There's some of my videos from the past week or so. Well, listen, the same good deals that I told you about yesterday and this last week are still the same good deals. If you're looking for any kinds of gold, silver, and platinum, and you live in South Florida, we're the people to see. I'll beat the locals. I'll beat Atmex. I'll beat SD Bullion. I'll beat JM Bullion, the online guys too. So you don't need to go online to buy. If you live in South Florida, you can come visit me here at Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals. If you don't live in South Florida and you're buying more than 100 ounces of gold and more than 1,500 ounces of silver, I can still do business with you through traditional forms of wires and secure forms of shipping and that kind of thing. But I do not have a website, folks, like you can click a button and order from me. And again, I can't sell less than 100 ounces of gold and less than 1,500 ounces of silver through out of state. But if you're buying over that amount, I can certainly work with you. With that said, best deals again and worst deals are the same as they were in yesterday's video. If you want to watch yesterday's video, I'll do best deals and worst deals tomorrow, probably on Wednesday. I'd like to thank everybody for watching Gold Flies, Dollar Dies. That was how do you like that? I made a rhyme. There we go. Hey, maybe I'll start being like, I think there's a singer out there. What's his name? The guy that plays the guitar and sings when he's talking about precious metals. Maybe I'll be the rapper, the gold and silver rapper. Gold, gold flies, dollar dies. Tim, what's up? Clayton, got you guys. I got to kind of move through this. I'm a little late starting to this. As you notice, it's a morning video. Good for me. Maybe I'll start getting these more consistent in the morning. But I'm late for work right now. So, and I've got a big coin collection coming in, a really cool one. Buying a complete set, not buying, helping a gentleman sell, I should say, a complete set of trade dollars, which is pretty cool. That was it. Steve Martin, the movie The Jerk. That's what I was asking about yesterday. That was a great movie. Again, I normally like to, I don't know what monk fist tastes like, but I can tell you Rosie's are really tasting. Thanks, Silverliner. Nice to see you comment. Again, I'm not going to be able to answer a lot of the comments. I'm going to kind of scroll through here, but I'd like to thank everyone for commenting. I am late for work, unfortunately. I got to get up a little bit, not get up earlier. I got to get these videos done a little bit earlier. I get up early enough already. No, I didn't know that. Hang on one second here. I'm just scrolling through here to acknowledge everybody. And by the way, the commenters out here are great. I really appreciate all you guys out here that make comments. And also, I like the conversations that go, that you guys have amongst yourselves. Very educating sometimes, and most of the times, I'm not saying it sometimes, but most of the time, very educating, and I find most of you are very civil in your comments. Walter, Paul, I will answer this. Yeah, they're really late on releasing the proofs and stuff on Silver Eagles, and I'm not quite sure why. Just a lot of weird stuff going on out there. You can feel it, you can see it, but I couldn't answer that for you, Paul. Hey, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and as well as that bell up there that lets you know when my new videos come up. If you don't find me on this particular forum, YouTube, perhaps you'll find me out here because maybe I said something stupid on this one. But no less, I'm on here. I back up everything here as well. And I like this actually. I don't watch it near as much as I do YouTube, but I do like it. I like the free speech element behind it, the same as I like the free speech element behind the newly acquired Twitter by Elon Musk. You can catch me out here, ask me questions as well. I think I've gathered 3 more friends. Woohoo! Well, that's it, folks. This is Brian with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, and platinum in any amounts, $1 worth, millions of dollars worth, and you live in South Florida, I'll beat the online guys. You don't need to order from them. I'll beat the local guys as well. Come and check me out. And if you are buying, if you do live out of state, couple things. If you're not buying more than 100 ounces of gold, more than 1,500 ounces of silver, you live outside the state of Florida, find a good local guy, really. I can't stress enough how much keeping that money local is very important. Nothing wrong with the big boys on the online companies, but keeping that money local is really important. Hey, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.